Welcome to Bond Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
Hi there, I'm Rob Brady from Brady's Meats.
Welcome to Bond Park.
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 We've got big news.
Do we ever? We have a brand new website.
And so many amazing things to check out on it.
Bondpark.com.
What can we find there?
You can listen to our episodes right on the site.
You can check out the Bond Park community blog.
You can find out how you can partner with us.
Oh, and the shopping. We have so much fun merchandise.
I'm going to buy myself the I'm the Marshall Ward tote.
Me too.
Bondpark.com. Check us out.
That was a fun
plaza?
day.
Sorry.
Philip and Albert,
Oh, yes, I do know where you are. Sorry.
right beside Tim Hortons.
Yeah, good. Are we ready?
Yep.
All right. Rob Brady, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to talk to you. I don't know if you know this, but actually Marshall talks about you a lot. I hear a lot of Rob Brady stories. I was in the Brady's store. I was talking to Rob. I went and saw these hot sauces there. You're often talking about the shop.
Yeah, I've only spent a few seconds really ever talking to Rob. You know, often you don't see me. You're kind of in the back or working or whatever. And but what I love about your store is there's products in there that you simply can't find anywhere else in town. That's the only place where you can get those jalapeno poppers, right? And
Yeah, we try to be unique in that sense.
Yeah.
I just noticed that actually Rob and I are both repping local companies here, and you're wearing a horror shirt. So next time you have to come with Rob came wearing a Beijing Tiger t-shirt, and we are big fans of Island Sun.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, why don't we start off just with that story and how I believe you were Jeff Davis of Island Sun. I believe you were like maybe his dad or somebody said, you know where you need to go, and he brought you some hot sauce right when he started. Yeah.
The way the story goes, Jeff's parents have been shopping at Brady's for many years, and they happen to be from Barbados. And one day they were talking about their son Jeff making this hot sauce. So I just said, if you have a sample, I'd love to try it, and maybe we can sell it. The very next day, Jeff shows up with this beautiful sample of the Beijing Tiger, which was really impressive. So, and it reminded me of some hot sauces I've had in the Caribbean on trips with my family. And so I told him, I said, when you're ready to roll, like, we'd love to support you. Then he came in with the design of as you know, he's a graphic designer, designed this beautiful label, the bottle. So we helped him with all that. And we happened to be his very first customer. So up on our shelf, we do have 3 bottles. I believe it's 1,000, 3,000, and the number 5,000 signed off by Jeff.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm hoping that we're going to be looking at maybe 10,000 as it grows bigger and bigger. But yeah, it's an amazing product, and we're happy to be the very first retail outlet to carry it.
Yeah, that just seems incredibly meaningful to me that you would open that door for someone like Jeff, yeah, I mean, Jeff, as you know, great guy. He's down to earth. He just wants to make this beautiful hot sauce, which he has, and the packaging, everything it's 10 out of 10 across the board.
The sauce is fantastic. This is unlike any other sauce. I mean, this isn't an ad, people, but we talk about Beijing Tiger a lot on the show. It's just our favorite. Mm-hmm. We do so many different things with it. And I heard that Taste was making an ice cream out of it for a while. Taste in St. Jacobs was making Beijing Tiger ice cream, which would be so amazing.
Yeah, and it's all handcrafted, like it's made with love, and that's what we're all about too. So
yeah, small batch, and he has to like rent a commercial kitchen and
gluten-free, so it helps people like me.
But he's the kind of guy too, like I could send him a message like, we're looking for 2 more cases, and boom, he's usually the same day or the next day.
Oh yeah, I ordered a sweater off of his website once, and he was like, he showed up at my door, here you go. And I'm like, oh, this is like such personal service. I love it.
Yeah, so that's we like to support as much local as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you've got you have Wicked Smart in there. I think you might there's a beautiful pepper jelly. It might be called Loco or Lizardo or something.
Yeah, that was a very similar story to Jeff's, but unfortunately the lady that's doing that has left the region and it's no longer available. But that was it was a great product, and she moved back down to the US.
I discovered Ruckus hot sauce in there. The Cherry Reaper.
Yeah.
And then when I look at that freezer in the middle, there's a ton of amazing frozen food in there, along with pizzas. Where's that all coming from?
Yeah, again, it's all sourced locally as much as possible. The pizza store is, we were bringing in, during the pandemic, supporting some local guys that were struggling with their restaurants. They decided to branch out and make frozen pizzas. One of them was those pizza guys in St. Jacobs. So they approached me saying, no, we can make pizza for you if you like. So we introduced the Brady sausage series. And so we do the hot Italian, the poutine sausage, and they incorporate it into a frozen pizza for us, and it's just like flying out of the...
I find that freezer very fun. Like you never know what you're going to kind of, you look in there for one thing and then you see 3 more things that you want to buy.
Yeah, there's a nice selection there. Frozen fish, pizzas, chicken wings, chicken fingers, that kind of thing.
When Sarah mentioned that I bring up your name every so often, it's because something will happen where I'm watching Rogers TV and then I'm watching Chef D, and you were on an episode of Chef D.
Yeah.
And I felt like Chef D genuinely was learning a lot of stuff. There was some interesting combination of chocolate with meat. I can't remember what that was there.
Yeah, that was quite a while ago, but he's a great guy, and he was coming up with some great ideas. He did actually incorporate the chocolate into...
Right.
Yeah.
And I when we interviewed Chef D, I said, even with all your expertise, like he's a culinary wizard, right?
Yeah.
I said, you still have a lot to learn from a butcher like Rob Brady, and Chef D goes, absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That was a fun time. Plus, they had some nice local beverages that we could sample there too.
Right. Nice.
Which is always fun.
So I read on your website a long time ago a bit about your background. That's what we want to hear about. But did you take over the Brady's? Was it previously a business that you took over?
There's a lot of history in the Brady story.
Tell us. We're ready. Let's hear the lore.
I bought the business from a gentleman called Herbert Benkner, who had been in the area for a long time. This is going back to 1999 when we took over the store. And Benkner's was in Parkdale Plaza, where we are, for about 10 years. So the plaza now is 32 years. We've been there. This will be our 23rd year. Prior to that, he was in a place called Towers Plaza, which is before my time. And
we remember Towers Plaza.
Going back a little bit further before that, the story goes that Benkner took over a deli from the Pillars family. So back in the day, the Pillars, when they started out, they had 3 or 4 delis around KW area, and one of them Herbert worked in, and then he purchased it from them as they grew into a big processor. So that's kind of the story. So a lot of history there. And when I took over the store, it was mainly German. And that here they have this English butcher coming in. They're all kind of like, he doesn't speak German. But at that time, Mr. Benkner, who we've become really good friends, he's still around, plays some golf every once in a while. I think he's 80, in his 80s now. Very fit, great man. And we worked together at the farmers market. Back then, before the big fire 9 years ago, we had the veal shop stand. And Herb used to work at the farmers market for us as we were trying to build Brady's in the store. So we kind of switched roles, which is kind of cool. And then the big fire came, and we never went back. That was it. We
did a big series on the St. Jacobs Farmers Market that probably know about, covering that fire. Lots of emotion.
Yeah.
Lots of I dare to say trauma for families.
For sure. Yeah.
It was a day I'll never forget. Like, we woke up in the early hours, rushed down there, and just stood at the fence with like tears in our eyes, and just very kind of just all those memories that. When I moved here in 1990, I worked for a gentleman who owned the farmers market stand at that time, and then I purchased it from him, and then went into the Benkner's Deli, and Brady's was the beginning. So there was a lot of memories there, and it was hard to see it all just gone. Luckily, we had our store, so we were not a priority to get back into the market, and I think it just worked out better for everybody that we never went back, because my focus was on the store.
I think what Sarah and I marvel at when we were producing that series on the market was how, like the rest of you, Sheila Shantz would have shown up and watched that fire, take out that building in moments, really.
Patrika's family?
Patrika's, yeah.
The Patrika's family, we're talking about the younger kids in the family came in their pajamas.
Yeah.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, like you said, standing at the fence. And somehow that market just said, okay, this is what we need to do. And there was the white market tent was built and still stands today. And apparently they never missed a market day or something.
No, they managed to somehow they did get most people back up and running who didn't have a retail outlet. So for us, it wasn't a priority. But yeah, we have lots of good memories from the market, and it was where it kind of helped to support us beginning our store. So it was a great start for us, and it was missed at the time, but now it's just a distant memory.
And what brought you to Canada?
I have family here. My mom's brother lived in Kitchener, and I first came in 1987 with my parents. Just fell in love right away. Did all the usual things. Went to a Blue Jays game, went to Muskoka, and I told my dad I was definitely want to come back.
Oh,
and
if you go to Muskoka, you're like, why would I leave?
Kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
We also, so then in 1989, I had the opportunity to come back and do like a 6-month tour across the country, just kind of looking for casual work and just exploring. So I came in 89, and then on the way back we took the train out to BC, which was an incredible journey. And on the way back, we took a Greyhound, which was not as much fun, with about $50 between two of us. So it was a very interesting life experience. Arrived back in the KW area. My cousin Dave happened to put us up for a short time. Otherwise, we were heading back to the UK, which is not what we planned to do. So, and in the meantime, I'd met my wife. And about a year and a half later, we got married in England.
That'll do it.
In 1990, I met Monica in 89, and that summer I had a great time, and then moved back to the UK. And then very romantically over the phone, I called Monica up one day and asked her, did she want to get married? She agreed, and 2 weeks later she showed up in the UK, met my family, we got married, and 32 years later we're still here. So quite a romantic love story. But I never forget my first impression of Canada was when I landed at Pearson, and just how big and wide and open everything was. So I was like, wow, this place is really cool. I definitely want to come back. So yeah, I fell in love with Canada, and then fell in love with Monica, and then that was it.
And then when you get out to like Saskatchewan, so much big blue sky, eh? Like it's a very
we kind of didn't get to stop in Saskatchewan. It's a place I want to go back to. I love photography, so one day I'd like to get out there and with my camera, maybe take a train ride again.
That's right. I've seen your beautiful photography.
Yeah, haven't done a lot during COVID. We've been lucky enough to do like some really good trips over the last 5 years. My biggest one would be the Serengeti in Africa, which was life-changing. It was just incredible. You might have seen the famous leopard shot in my shop. And the 3 zebras. There's many more I should really be processing.
I'm a photographer, so I relate definitely. Seeing things through the lens is I don't know, a different view than everybody with you is gonna get. Yeah. Right.
It's funny because people would say, do you do wedding photography? And like people, I don't do people.
Yeah, that's all I do is people. But it seemed to be when people find out you're a photographer, they often say like, oh, you have to see this landscape I once shot, which is totally different than what I do.
Yeah.
So you must think the same thing when people say, oh, can you like take pictures of our family? You're like,
I'd be like, no, I can't do that.
That's no. And that would kind of ruin it for you, right?
And for me, it's just for fun. Yeah.
For fun.
Like,
creative outlet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you discover that?
Yeah. When did you start taking pictures?
I always liked looking at pictures, but I didn't really start taking pictures to probably 8 to 10 years now. Yeah. Just fairly recent. We've just planned a trip this year to Ecuador for some bird photography, which I'm really excited. So picking that back up again.
That really speaks to Marshall's passions.
Yeah. I'm a huge bird enthusiast.
What do you call it? A backyard bird watcher or something? What, you have a word for it?
Yeah, there's actually
amateur ornithologist.
Yeah, there's many different labels you can put to that. So you've been able to be an entrepreneur and be able to walk away from your business and let somebody else run it while you go travel. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's taken a long time. And it's funny, people say, oh, where are you going now? Are you going on another trip? It's like, it took a long time to get to that point. In the first 7 to 10 years, I didn't really get to do anything. It was like, I was just 24/7 behind the table, cutting meat and looking after my customers. But now we've lucky enough to have a really good, strong team that allows me to step out. Like I said, we've been doing it for 23 years this year, so we're pretty proud of that. But now we're starting to see some of the rewards where I can step out a little bit and do some of these amazing trips.
And how did you become a butcher?
I started really young. So in high school, I was done school in England at 16. School was not my thing. I couldn't wait to leave. And I was working as part-time I was offered a job just happened to be in a butcher shop at 14. Just loved it, and I'd be watching everybody doing their thing, and they said, when you're done school, if you want to come in do an apprenticeship, I would love to have you. So I left school at noon on Friday and went straight to a place called Dewhurst, which in the UK used to be the biggest butcher chain, I think of 300 stores. So that's where I did my apprenticeship. About 3 years, but hands-on in the store. So again, none of the slaughterhouse or anything like that. It was all retail, and which I love, dealing with people. So did that for about 7-8 years till I emigrated to Canada, and my goal was to come here and one day open a shop. So it's like a dream come true.
And that was the drive. Why Canada?
Well, when I came to Canada, on my first trip.
So that was the thing that's like, I was there, I fell in love with the Muskokas and with, with the whole parents, lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
I
that
was like, one day I'd like to go back, and because I worked with a family, it was called Frank's Butchers. My boss at the time from Dewhurst, he left to go work with his brother, who was an area manager who opened his own business called Frank's, and his brother Graham went along with him, and they took me with him because he knew my work ethic was there. So I worked and learned even more from those guys, like how to run a successful business. And that kind of gave me the idea, hey, I'd like to do this when I emigrate to Canada. So everything just fell into place. I had to do a lot of different jobs before I started butchering, like snow removal with a shovel. It was all hard work. Also like some well drilling, just helping other people. Some interesting jobs.
Yeah, all using your back.
Yeah. So yeah, that was me. I've always been a manual labor guy, hands-on, still am to this day, and I still love what I do. I have a great team around me now, so again, it allows me to step out. And
well, what does a day look like in your shop? You know, what time does it start, and what's all happening during the day? You know, if I see you, it's usually at a glance. You're moving around. You're not the person at the front at the till ever. Not when I've been there, but maybe you do that.
Sometimes
too.
I do, and like, oh, you do this as well. It's like I do it all.
Yeah.
Whatever has to be done, right?
Yeah,
I can sweep floors.
I'm
too.
really keen to hear about what a day in your shop looks like.
Well, it's really changed.
Yeah, let's talk about from the beginning, and then we'll talk about what it looks like now, maybe.
So before, when we had the farmers market and the shop, it was pretty crazy. Like it was like 4 a.m. starts. Saturday nights. Falling asleep at 6 p.m. Didn't have much of a social life because it was basically just full on. Once the market was gone, it allowed us to focus more just on the retail store instead of having to try and juggle 2 places. So that was a lot easier. Still early starts. We've always kept Sunday, Monday closed. That was going back to when Benkner had the store. So we've kept that, and Sunday was always important to me and to my staff that we could have that time, family time. And we still do that, and Mondays as well. So some people say, oh, you're not open Mondays. Like, we could open 7 days a week. And I think our customers really appreciate that. We need that time as well. Not just me, but the staff. And we've just kept that. And I really, really enjoy that. Like that we have 2 days just to kind of shut it off.
I think it speaks to your values as well as a customer. I like seeing that.
Yeah. So our days have changed. Of course, COVID, we've just gone through 2.5 years of complete craziness where we were the only place basically open in the plaza. Some days we'd come out and look around, the parking lot would be empty, and we were just full tilt, like we didn't miss a beat. We just got busier and busier. So we did change our hours. Instead of open 9 till 6, we went 10 till 5, reduced our hours just in order to allow us to prepare a lot of pre-orders, because a lot of people were pre-ordering during the pandemic. And then Saturdays we reduced our hours a little bit too, so just to give us a bit more time just to prepare.
We've heard from a lot of small business owners and larger businesses that pandemic shift or once the lockdown started, they were just overwhelmed with the support of their community. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it was really hard during the pandemic when, with the masks, the cover, like the shields at the cash, and like only allowing 5 people at a time, we kind of lost contact with our customers, which I really was quite upset about. It was basically, there's a line outside the store, like 10, 12, 15 people waiting outside, and it's cold, and sorry, we don't have time to talk. It's basically in and out, which we had to do that, but now it's come back where it's a little bit more relaxed and we can talk to people again, and that's who we are. People come in to talk about the cuts they want to buy, and we have many customers that have been there from day one that we have relationships with, so it's nice to have that back. It feels good to be able to have those relationships, whereas during the pandemic it was missing.
And you're able to do everything on site. We've interviewed a few craft brewers now, and the craft brewery folks always say, we almost outgrow ourselves in the first year that we're there. If they're doing well, which is great, but they find themselves needing more space. You're able to stay contained and do everything on site.
Yeah, like some people have said over the years, like you should get a second location, you should do this. We've had 2 locations, and the juggling part of it was very hard. So I'd like to focus more on the one location. We're able to keep it. The growth has been, obviously, we see a lot of growth, but not to the point where we've outgrown that location. And it's sometimes, some times in the year, it's really difficult when, around the big holiday times, of course, but we seem to make it work.
And your staff is super friendly and very attentive. Like they are making eye contact with you.
A 5-star review from Marshall Ward.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's just super friendly. They know the products. Right? Yeah. They all know the kind of the backstory on the products I'm buying, right? So how do you go about that, crafting this environment that is incredibly welcoming and inclusive, and also you're able to do what you need to do while your staff, regardless of their age, they know where they need to be and how they're going to react or interact with the customers.
Yeah, for me it's very important, because when I go into a business, I want to be treated well, like I treat people. I've noticed that too in some areas. That's kind of missing now. Like the customer service is starting to slide for a lot of places. I've noticed that when we go out to different places, and so that makes me want to be even more on hands with making sure that we look after people and treat them the way that we want to be treated. And I think that's really important.
It's a hard culture to cultivate. You have to make sure that your staff is on board with that. You have to make sure that they understand that it's going to be this family atmosphere where we're going to interact with our customers and maybe let them talk through a recipe so we know what it is that they're trying to do. And, that could be hard to find staff for sometimes. Yeah,
we've been very fortunate, because I hear that a lot, especially in the restaurant business right now. Like staff is basically impossible to find. Mm-hmm. But I find if I treat people, again, the way I want to be treated, we've managed to make a great team, and we're very fortunate. We've always been fortunate that way. We've had many young people come through Brady's that I've managed to train, knowing that they're not going to be in this business, and they've all moved on to bigger and better things, but we still keep in touch, and I feel really privileged that I've been part of the growth for young people, and just treat them, again, really well.
This is something that I'll tell all young people who are willing to listen all the time, which is this is a small town and everybody seems to know each other. So you have to behave that way.
That's
you have
right.
to behave as though anything that you say is going to come back to you. And anyone that you treat poorly, isn't going to keep that to themselves. And you need to think about that when you're running a business.
Yeah. And I look back again to the days when I was that young person just starting to work for the first time, and I was treated really well. And it's something that sticks with you. And I learned a lot from those people.
Yeah, what I've appreciated just a few times we've just chatted very briefly is your body language is telling me you're interested in what I'm asking or saying. You're not turning your back and walking away to go do something while I'm asking a question. If I ask, do you have this right now? You walk over, you point, it should be in there. It's you're very attentive for the entire time. That if I take up a minute of your time, I feel like you have nothing else to be doing but talking to me.
Yeah, and again, I've seen that in certain places where that's missing, and it's really sad that we're in that business where you're there to look after people and help,
We're going to take a moment to hear from this episode's sponsor.
Ever wondered what happens inside a black hole?
Or what quantum mechanics tells us about reality?
Curious about how the universe began or how it will end?
Feed your curiosity with Conversations at the Perimeter, a science podcast from Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics.
On each episode, we chat with a different scientist about the grandest questions in the universe, from the quantum to the cosmos.
Geek out to Conversations at the Perimeter, wherever you get your podcasts.
And now back to the show.
You must have thought when the local hot sauce makers started arriving, right?
Yeah.
You must have thought, oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one. This one's really good too, eh?
We have so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, KW is,
I've counted 15. right? Yeah. And so how does that work in terms of working with a little small tiny business like a hot sauce? They just they bring you so much, and hopefully you can sell it, and then they'll bring you back some more.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky. Like, I'm willing to give, if somebody approaches us with a new product, especially if it's a local guy like Jeff, for example, obviously we want to give it our best shot. And through social media now, we have great outlets to let people know what's available. And most people, when they see, like if I'm cooking something on the weekend, my wife's always like, can we eat now? And I said, well, I have to take a picture first. Or a video.
Yep, everything is content.
Yeah, and I love that part of my business too, where I can reach out to people and it works. Like people say, oh, where's those tomahawks I seen on the weekend? Or what was that you were cooking the other day? I want to try that. It's a great outlet. So again, through the small local guys, we can, with pictures and videos, we can promote their products too. Yeah,
and they're doing it for you too, because I see Brady's name brought up on various hot sauce makers Facebook's pages.
We help each other, and we're like, the saying was during COVID, we're all in this together. We really are in it together. And I like to help others wherever we can.
When you're training somebody to be a butcher, well, I'll give this example. I have a family member who was a manager at places like Jiffy Lube, like that, and lots over the years, and he says, I'd actually prefer someone to come into my business and me show them exactly how you work on a car, as opposed to you work somewhere else, and I need to show you how that's not how we're going to do it.
That is a common sentiment.
Yeah, we're going to do it this way. And it's not like he was saying everything that it was wrong, but that's not how we're doing it here. He said, I'd actually rather have like a clean slate, someone who's never touched a car. Does it work that way with butchering?
Not totally. I mean, if you have someone with the basic background of had more so like meat cutting, for example, it can be tweaked the way we do it. Yeah. Basically, it is very similar in most places, but ours is more like, again, hands-on. It's not just the way they cut the meat, it's how you interact with the customer, and that's really important. Yeah,
and what does that interaction look like in terms of like, I think most people have all heard, get to know your local butcher, you know what I mean? I think you probably have lots of customers who say, Rob Brady's my butcher, you know what I mean? He understands what I'm looking for, he's going to do things a certain way, and but what are some of those kind of details that some of your most loyal customers are looking for? Or maybe it's just the familiarity of coming into a shop where they know you.
Yeah, and it's like, if we can give them suggestion on something that we've cooked, like one of my recent customers made a comment that, I love that, you eat everything that's in the counter too, and promote it, and like you said, you stand behind it and you know what you're talking about. People like that. If not everyone's comfortable with certain cooking techniques, a lot of times they look at me as if I'm a chef, which I'm not. I love cooking, mainly grilling, but definitely not a chef. Even though we've had, over the years, people have said they don't want to invite us over for dinner because they feel intimidated. But whereas I'm really happy with,
please invite me. Yeah,
that's probably how Chef D feels, right?
Yeah. Like it, and it makes me laugh. I mean, I'd be happy with whatever somebody prepared. It
always tastes better when somebody else makes food for you anyway. Just because you appreciate it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
As vegetarians, Marshall and I are vegetarians. Yeah. He's mentioned a few products, but what are we coming into your store to buy?
We do have lots of options. We sell lots of fresh vegetables. We do have some frozen pizza choices as well, without the meat toppings.
The best jalapeno poppers.
We have. What else?
And I really appreciate the cheese. Like, this is quality cheese.
Yeah.
Where's that cheese coming from?
So we deal with just a couple of cheese, again, local. So Millbank and Bright's is our main. And then we do bring in some specialty cheeses from overseas. But the majority of our cheese is what people like going back to something as simple as a Colby cheese, which I never realized how good it was. It's been around forever, and we have one customer comes in, and the girls call him Mr. Colby. He buys like 3 or 4 at a time. And I'm like, I got to try this. It's been so long since I've tasted this. And then I was like, wow, this is really amazing. I mean, it's a simple cheese, but it's all local. Again, we work closely with the local. We build relationships with the local guys there too.
Yeah, the cheese curds are awesome. Right?
Cheese curds and flavored.
You're a big fan of cheese curds.
Yeah.
Most people are amazed at the different flavors, like the garlic and onion, the hot pepper, or just the regular orange and white curds. But again, it's that freshness. It's always fresh in the counter.
And what's it like being in that part of town? Like, it's for the longest time when I first was introduced to your story, I had to remember where it was. It's kind of like there's lots of kind of winding roads around it, and so actually, is your address like Phillip Street?
So we were at 465 Phillip Street, on the corner of Phillip and Albert. And going back to the story of Benkner's, back when they were on Towers Plaza, the story went they were expanding the plaza and they gave them 6 months to leave. So you can imagine that was a small deli, like just up and leave in 6 months. So they moved to a brand new part of town. So we're talking 30 plus years ago. And it was kind of on the outskirts of town then. It was Parkdale Plaza, which is where we are now. And I remember Herb saying moving up there and there was basically nobody around. It was kind of like, where are we? So for us, during the market days, we were very conveniently located, like 5-minute drive. So it was, if we forgot something, it was nice and easy to go restock the market. But we're in a great location. Back in the day when BlackBerry was big, they basically took over the whole area, and we were centrally located to supply. We had a lot of great customers coming through BlackBerry, and then they left, and it was almost like the Titanic went down. It was like, where did everybody go?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if Vincenzo was lost, Sun Life.
Yeah. Because at that time we were doing lunches in the store, and the lunch business just kind of grew into something that wasn't manageable anymore. So I made a decision. My wife thought I was crazy at the time. I was like, we got to stop doing lunches. We still have people coming in today, 3.5 years later, still do the steak sandwiches on Fridays. Like, unfortunately, we don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. It was a great part of the business, but it just didn't make sense. My main focus was the fresh meat. So we had to make some tough choices. And back then when the BlackBerry buildings were full, like there was lots of people just walking around the neighborhood looking for lunch options. So
that's a hard one too, because when you are working in that setting, you have your go-tos, like you're planning on that lunch, right? So I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed, but supportive.
And then also when the pandemic hit, we had to make some choices. We were doing because it became so busy with the COVID situation, we had to make some choices, and one of them was not to do cold cuts anymore. Again, we still get people asking for that, but the main focus was just the fresh meat.
Mm-hmm.
And your location's interesting. I don't know if it's an illusion, but it feels like you're up on a hill, kind of, like when you pull in there, or that maybe behind you. Yeah, I always feel like I'm going up a hill when I go up into that plaza.
Yeah, it's a great little plaza. Like I said, it's over 30 years that the store's been there, for 23 for us. It's a small spot. Our store is very small. Again, going back to people saying, why don't you expand? If somebody opens it, comes empty next door, you should get bigger. Bigger is not always better, in my opinion. But yeah, it's been a great location for us. Yeah.
And would you say word of mouth has been really important for Brady's Meats?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Again, if you treat people right and you sell good products, people are going to say good things about you, and that's how you build business too.
So let's backtrack. Let's go back in time a little bit. And earlier you were telling us, about your journey, falling in love with Canada and coming here. Marshall made a very quick comment, like, did you always think you would be a butcher? And you just sort of said no, and how that happened. But let's talk about your hometown, what that life was like. And you said that you weren't great at school, or school wasn't for you. School wasn't great to you.
I was not a big fan of school. I got told by teachers, no, you could do so much better. And it wasn't my thing. The place I grew up in is a town called Corby, Northamptonshire. So it's right in the Midlands. It's a typical, very old English village of about 5,000 people. And then back in the 30s, they discovered iron ore in the ground. And they built this big town of today of 55,000. So it grew very quickly. And they had to they had to bring people in from Scotland to work the steelworks. So it became known as Little Scotland. Still to this day, it's a very big Scottish community. A lot of people, when I moved here, they were trying to figure out where my accent was from. Mm-hmm. And so I was born to Irish parents. Both my parents emigrated from Dublin. Lived in an English town full of Scottish people. Then I moved to Canada. I thought
that I heard Scottish in your accent, but I was like, I don't know. That's not what he said.
So when I arrived in Canada, 90% of people would say, "Are you Australian?" Oh. So, and then I tried to explain that story. So I'm English. I'm from Irish parents. But Corby was a great little town. same, like you were saying about knowing everybody in town. People would always say hello to each other. My family's still there. I get to go back and catch up with some old friends. And I brought my son over there this year. It was really cool to show him around. But very, very big Scottish influence, like a lot of haggis, Iron Brew, still to this day, Highland Games.
You could really mess with people and just adjust it. So wherever they think you're from, just go with that. So yeah, I am from Australia.
Yeah.
And add a little bit of what you know about the nuance of us Australians.
Well, now we have the Roberto pizza from those pizza guys with our hot Italian sausage. So Pete from those pizza guys came up with the name Roberto, and I was like, I love it. So I can joke around with my customers, say I'm part Italian too, even though I'm not. Yeah, so that's where I came from, Corby, Northamptonshire.
And what kind of, when you think back to your childhood in your hometown, what lives on most in your heart? Like, is it
place
or experiences or the music or something kind of? Or?
Yeah, the music. I grew up in the 80s. A lot of great music. The food, my mom was a great cook. My 3 sisters, amazing cooks. So I was always around food. So I got to eat a lot of great food. I didn't necessarily cook as much. My niece has turned out to be an amazing baker too. Like she learned that from my mom. So back in those days, when my mom came from Ireland, they didn't have a lot of money, so they really used every part of what they had. I remember going into the butcher shop with my mom as a young kid, and she'd buy a whole side of pork, and we used everything.
Hopefully this is many years away, but how does a butcher retire? Like, how do you wrap up that career kind of thing? Or is there often another generation coming in that's ready to, or in some cases, I know with the Labruto family that Charles Coley meets, those kids are all heading off to university, and I think those brothers aren't quite sure what that will look like.
Well, for those guys, they were my neighbors at the market for many years. Great guys. We always helped each other out. And they were lucky to have 3 brothers in the family. I never had that. It was only me. So I kind of, in the early days, it was it wasn't as easy to lean on, a family member. It was just basically me and my wife. But the exit plan, it's always in the back of your mind. Hopefully I can do this for a lot longer. I'd like to stay within the Bradys in this community as long as I can. But one day, eventually, I'll have to slow it down. I really haven't thought about what that will look like. Maybe I can spend the winters in the heat somewhere. That's my plan. I'd like to take maybe 2 months of the year and go somewhere warm and do some photography and just enjoy. Because the winters are I remember coming to Canada and we couldn't afford to go on family vacations in the early days. And I remember all the people taking off in January, February and heading south. And then the first time we got to do that, I was like, I could see why. So now it's starting to look more appealing as I'm getting older.
Bond Park is made possible with the support of the Kitchener Public Library and the Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation.
Our show is produced by Sarah Geidlinger
and Marshall Ward,
with audio engineering by Sarah Geidlinger.
Bond Park's original music is by Alan Lung. Harry, still with us? We want to tell you about a fun project that we have. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We have another podcast called An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Here's Colin Hunter of Kayfabe News to tell you all about it.
Welcome to An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm Colin Hunter from Kayfabe News. Marshall is utterly obsessed with professional wrestling. Sara is utterly perplexed by professional wrestling. On each episode of An Unscripted Spectacle, Marshall and Sara talk with a different guest from the world of wrestling. Promoters, referees, journalists, and current and past stars of the Squared Circle to talk deeply about the strange magic of professional wrestling that has enchanted Marshall his whole life. Can they turn Sara into a fellow connoisseur of professional wrestling? She'll need some convincing.
I find out who Jimmy Corderas is. Who the heck are you?
Oh, well, that's a good question. For those who don't know, I spent the better part of over 2 decades working in WWF/WWE, mostly as a referee inside the ring.
I have the honor of meeting the magnificent LuFisto. I heard that you were described as the first lady of hardcore. I've just recently found out what hardcore is.
Yeah, thanks to Madman Pondo.
When I've learned that I was going to be inducted, it was like, it is now my time to tell the story of women's wrestling. Because so many times I've heard, oh, this is the first time this happens in women's wrestling history. And I'm like, no.
I learned all about the storytelling and writing process from Tom Casiello.
Yeah, I was in soap operas for 14 years. I was at Young and the Restless last. That was from 2009 to 2011. And so I thought, I'll go in for the interview. I'll be honest with them. If I blow it, I blow it. Not the end of the world. And I was there for 6 years. And I rose up the ranks to managing lead writer. And it was the most insane time period of my entire life.
I got a new skincare regime from RJ City. Checking out your hair, and I wish that mine looked like yours. You have beautiful locks.
Thank you. The secret, this isn't a plug, it feels like an endorsement, is aloe vera. I have it here. I put it on my skin. I put it in my hair. I use the gel. I put a couple drops of peppermint in.
I have a plant right there on my
Good.
fridge.
Cut it open, squeeze it out, and put it, honestly, wherever you want. It's good for you.
I find out that Colt Cabana is just famous enough that he can still buy groceries. And Tyson Kidd tells me all about the people's elbow. Who knew?
Basically comes to a complete stop, then brings his leg over the guy like he's going to do a leg drop. But the leg keeps circling past the guy, and then he drops an elbow on the guy.
Oh, and the elbow represents all the people of the fans? He's been voted, he's going to drop this elbow?
Well, he started calling himself the People's Champion, and then that move just became the People's Elbow.
And then there's also, as you know, there's the People's Strudel.
Yeah. I mean, there's the People's Eyebrow. There's a lot of the people. Got a lot of people.
So check out an unscripted spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Available anywhere you get your podcasts.